So far away, Lucas, are you ready for another episode of Wiki Weekends?
Oh, I'm far away, Lucas, today.
You're always far away, right? Unless you've just been off camera this entire time.
You never know.
Well, are you ready today to talk about some anime?
I mean, I'm always down to talk about anime.
Okay, so this is Wiki Weekends, a series where I scour the lengths and breadths of the internet for a topic that I'm interested in talking about with my good friend Lucas, and we just go through the wiki and see what conversation arises as a result. And today, I picked a wiki for just some old school anime. Fist of the North Star.
But Karl, that's not like the first anime that ever came out. That's not old school.
Yeah. It reminds me a little bit when someone's going to say, well, there's actually anime that came out before Fist of the North Star. It's like, it reminds me a little bit of those like shit posts you see every now and again of like, are you like, a new gamer and you play Fortnite, or are you an ancient gamer who played Halo 3? Just the idea of an ancient gamer playing the third game in a series. So to clarify, I'm aware that Fist of the North Star is not the oldest anime. I'm also aware that it's based on a manga, but we're talking about the anime today because that's what I watched. Because that's always the thing, isn't it, when you say, oh yeah, like you talk about anime. It's like, well, it was actually a manga first. Like, yes, we know. We know.
Generally speaking, it's not that Karl and I haven't read manga before, but we tend to watch anime over reading manga. That is just our preference.
Also, as well, just anime is easier to consume than manga, in terms of like the fact you can just put it on and watch it, and the fact that it costs an absolute fucking fortune to buy manga, especially in the UK.
Also, it's easier to put clips in of anime.
It is easier to put clips in of anime, yes. So today we're specifically talking about the character Kenshiro from Fist of the North Star. And Lucas, what is your familiarity with Kenshiro, or just the Fist of the North Star franchise in general? Because I'm going to gather you probably know at least a little bit about it from pop culture osmosis. And the one thing that everybody knows is there's the noise that Kenshiro makes. I'm going to put in lots of clips in.
Yeah, I know little elements like that through, as you say, just the general pop culture osmosis, but other than that, I'm not overly familiar with Fist of the North Star itself in general, other than it kind of being one of, like, the big notable animes before the big three happened.
Yep. Well, I did double check. It came out the year before Dragon Ball did.
Oh, wow, so it's even before Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
I thought it was about the same time, yeah.
I double-checked, so it came out the year before. There'll be some dates on screen right now so people can get the timeline in their head. But you not knowing about Kenshiro is not a bad thing, because this is Wiki Weekend, so the Wiki's right here to help us. So Kenshiro, or Ken for short, is the main protagonist of the Hokuto no Ken manga, anime, and related media. Fist of the North Star for us. And it's kind of weird because the literal translation will be Fist of the Big Dipper, and I don't like that.
Is that what it means?
I think so. I remember reading that once of the direct translation will be Fist of the Big Dipper, and it's like, no, thank you.
I quite like that as a name, though. I mean, the North Star is cooler, but just Fist of the Big Dipper.
Yep. He is a martial artist and the 64th successor of the Hokuto Shinken style, and considered one of the greatest successors in its 1800-year history. And Kenshiro spends his days wandering the wasteland in search of his lost love, Yuria. He fights evil and injustice as he goes, killing the wicked and cruel wherever he finds them. Kenshiro is violent and uncompromising, but he is not cruel and rarely gives in to his wrath. And Lucas, from the basic descriptor of guy wandering the apocalyptic wasteland, solving problems as he goes, would you like to hazard a guess at what the main influence for the Fist of the North Star series is?
So, I'm struggling with the apocalyptic thing of thinking, like, what comes before Fist of the North Star, but I would have just... It sounds a bit like it's almost like Samurai-esque.
Well, that could be one possible influence, but the main one that I'm familiar with from interviews with the original creator is Mad Max. So Kenshiro is just Japanese Mad Max. And how familiar are you with Mad Max?
Not overly, other than having watched Fury Road one time, and it's really cool, but, like, that's probably why I didn't think of Mad Max, is because I've not watched much.
Which is fair, and if you don't know too much about Mad Max, you're probably not aware then of the theory, which isn't really a theory, it's basically all but confirmed through the text of the movies, that Mad Max isn't just one specific guy. Like, Mad Max is not Mel Gibson or Tom Hardy. Mad Max is like just an apocalyptic folk hero. And the films are recollections of the stories about his escapades in life.
But most of all, I remember the road warrior, the man we called Max.
Yeah, I've heard that theory because I've heard that theory through you.
Yeah.
And it almost reminds me of, something that I can translate that to that I like a lot is kind of, it's almost as if, Legend of Zelda, where a lot of the time it's just like, there's a hero of legend, and kind of a lot of the stories might be conflated with one another, and it's not one Link, it's every single one is near enough a different Link, but, it's just the hero of Hyrule.
And the reason I'm mentioning that theory whilst discussing Kenshiro is because even though the Fist of the North Star series definitively chronicles the adventures and exploits of Kenshiro, you can imagine that he becomes a mythological figure of the Wasteland. In fact, in the story, does. Where, like, villains start being terrified of this man they've heard of who just wanders around punching people so hard their heads explode.
It's like the Batman effect, isn't it? Of just, you've heard tales about this thing, and you may just get scared out of doing crimes because you're scared Kenshiro might show up.
Well, that's the thing, because obviously he becomes just this figure in the Wasteland of, like, have you heard about this man with the scar on his chest who wanders around and he can kill anyone with one punch, and then he'll turn up and kill you with one punch. Or, more often than not, 1,000 punches. But those 1,000 punches get delivered in 1/4 of a second.
Oh, God.
Because besides Kenshiro's catchphrase, which it does mention here, I think the most enduring legacy of Fist of the North Star is just the way Kenshiro fights, and his classic, now iconic, just like just 1,000 punches. How many things can you think off the top of your head that just reference that? There's so many, right?
I mean, how many times does, like, Dragon Ball alone do something like that?
Yeah, and they owe it all to Fist of the North Star. And I should note as well, another major influence for the character of Kenshiro specifically is Bruce Lee. And you can 100% get that as soon as you just hear that, and then just listen to Bruce Lee. Do you like Bruce Lee just like go bird-like cry, and he's like, Kias!
Yeah, those iconic noises that Bruce Lee always made.
Yeah, and Lucas, in that vein, do you have any favourite just like battle noises that get made in a piece of media you're a fan of? Because right off the bat, I'm going to pick you the post and just say Tommy Oliver, Power Ranger.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Exactly. He's the best one, right? Just like Tommy Oliver's Kias are the most Kia of all Kias, aren't they?
They really are, yeah.
And now, Red Ranger, it is time for me to destroy you.
Because that man put his heart and soul into those Kias. Like,
I love the fact, like, we both were just, we knew.
Well, it's because, when you're a kid and you're pretending to do, like, fighting with your friends, you make that noise. That's the noise that you make when you're fighting, right?
Yeah, and not necessarily a noise like the character makes, it kind of is, but just when I've been rewatching, like, the 90s X-Men in preparation to watch 97, just the noise of, like, Wolverine's claws coming out.
Oh, the sticked.
I know what you're thinking, punk. Question is, can I get Wolverine before he turns me into shish kebab with those claws? Well, Bob, seeing as how these claws are adamantium, the strongest metal known, and can slice through vanadium steel like a hot knife through butter, buddy, you gotta ask yourself, do I feel lucky?
Yeah, just, it's so good. But then, I guess another one to call out is just a lot of One Piece characters in general, just calling out, like, their attack names and stuff, but I love Luffy doing it.
Okay, is there a specific noise that he makes that you like?
It's just the way that, like, every attack begins with, like, Gomu Gomu no!
So that's, like, that's his battle cry.
Gomu Gomu
And I guess we have to mention JoJo. We've got to mention like the mudda. And when I learned that just means trash. That means he's like a literal translation. He's like calling it trash, which doesn't sound as good.
Your Hamon training avails you nothing. It's useless.
Like, because just mudder, and I think that is the direct translation, because my ex was, like, she spoke Japanese and she said that's the rough translation what it means, but it just doesn't sound as good in English. It doesn't have that rolling cadence. Because trash doesn't sound as good as like mudder, which I can't do. But it's awesome, right?
Just in terms of other anime things I want you to put in,
okay,
sound-wise, just do me a favour, and I'm sorry to make you track down something from Dragon Ball GT.
Oh, fuck's sake.
But the dance with like the rap in it where they trap Goku in the dance.
Okay, yeah. I'm
sorry, but it is the one thing that is like endured more than anything in my memory of GT.
Shake. Don't forget to smile. What? Now shake it.
Fair enough, yeah. No, folks at home, let us know what your favourite just like battle cry or battle shout is from a piece of media you are a fan of. But we have to move on. It says here, his famous catchphrase, "You are already dead." And I don't know like the exact Japanese pronunciation here because I always mess it up, but hope that's correct. You know what? I'm just going to dub over with Kenshiro saying it, and we're good.
I mean, that is a pretty strong catchphrase.
And he says that when he's punched someone, because he does that classic. It's not even classic. Like, no, this is one of the things that helps invent it. Killing someone before they even know they're dead. And I know samurai movies did this before. Yes. It was Akira Kurosawa invented the idea of killing someone and they don't know they're dead, which, fun fact, was a mistake. And for people out there unfamiliar with what we're talking about, no doubt everyone can picture in their head just the moment in a piece of media where someone gets slashed with a sword. It was a few seconds and then, bam, they die.
You shall die.
Right?
And normally it's when they put like the sword straight back into the sheath and time it.
Yeah, and there's many examples of that. Like, you know, a classic one we mentioned, Dragon Ball, Trunks beating Frieza.
Yeah, and just that general like Trunks introduction. There's like many a time where it happens in One Piece with Zoro, for example.
Yeah,
and
it happens in Devil May Cry. It happens in Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, which also has a moment where just someone throws hundreds and hundreds of punches. In fact, two characters do that to each other, which is super awesome, because Raiden does it to Armstrong, and Armstrong does it to him. And while Armstrong's doing it, he even says, "Die, die, 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 die."
And they also do it in Kill Bill, in a homage that is, you know, for samurai films as well.
Yep, and that trope is literally inspired by a mistake, and it's a mistake from an Akira Kurosawa film. I think it's Throne of Blood. And Akira Kurosawa was well known for his perfectionist tendencies, and a scene he was filming called for a guy to get slashed with a sword, and then just immediately a huge explosion of blood will fly out of him. However, to achieve that effect, they had a rubber hose inside of the actor that was set to go off exactly as the person struck him with the prop sword. However, the person who had to press the button to make the thing go off missed their mark, so it took like a split second for the blood to spurt out, and they were shitting themselves like, oh no, Akira Kurosawa is going to be real mad. This guy doesn't make mistakes. This guy is, like, you know, known for being a perfectionist. He thought it looked super rad.
It does look so cool.
It looks really cool, because it looks like the guy gets slashed so fast that his blood hasn't even had a chance to escape from the artery yet. And that became such an iconic visual that so many other things paid homage to it.
Very powerful hit.
And he just thought it looked super bitchin', and apparently every person making anime after that point did too, because most of them put a reference to it in their own way.
Yeah, and you know, the other great example is like the slide from Akira, and like,
Yeah. Which was deliberate.
Yeah.
They didn't the guy didn't accidentally drag,
no, just with everyone else copying it. I mean,
yeah, you just drag the cell frame across. Have you ever heard
oh no,
that?
not the motorbike!
Have you ever heard, though, that there is a very persistent story that I don't know if I believe it or not, but anime is literally a mistake. It's not just like, a shit post we put it over like Hayao Miyazaki. It's literally a mistake.
Oh, I'm very confused.
Okay, so
how it could be.
supposedly, the origins of anime, a Japanese guy a long ass time ago was watching like a Bugs Bunny cartoon or something in a theatre, and the projector was skipping. And as a result, it was skipping frames of animation as people were talking. But nobody noticed. And he realised that you didn't need to have too much like movement while people were talking. And that was supposedly the inspiration for why anime just has, when people are talking, it's just the mouth moves up and down and that's it, and there's no background movement at all.
Doesn't matter to me what his reasons are for wanting to win. I wouldn't be playing fair if I let him win the race on purpose.
But speed!
I'll see you when the race is over, Trixie.
But Eloise is ill. They must have some money.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, all you need is the mouth flaps, right?
Yeah, supposedly that was the incident. Like, it was a mistake with the projector in the theatre, so anime is literally a mistake. I don't know how accurate that is, though. So let's move swiftly on to talk about Kenshiro and his origins. So Kenshiro was originally an orphan. Classic story, right? So, he's a descendant of the Hokuto Soke bloodline. He was sent to the mainland by Juke as a baby, adopted by Ryuken, not Ryu and Ken
Ryu and
together.
Ken, the
There's a guy
power
called
couple.
Ryuken, a master of Hokuto Shinken. Ryuken named him after his older brother Kenshiro Kasumi, since they shared the same Big Dipper-shaped birthmark on their heads.
For 1 second, I thought that sentence was going very differently.
Yeah, and then Lucas, we're not going to tell you like any of the plot, because I would recommend if you can track it down, go watch it. But I'm just going to go through just the various subheadings. So it starts with childhood, then the nuclear war,
Oh god.
then wandering. Simply wandering the wasteland saving people. And one of the best things about the wandering arc of, Kenshiro's life is that I said he just becomes this legend. And he probably has one of the most badass introduction scenes of any character I'm aware of, where some people, they're up to no good. Your classic post-apocalyptic bandits are harassing some people. It's like, wait a minute, who's that over there? And it's a hooded figure walking across the wasteland. Then a building falls on Kenshiro's head and he walks through the building. Like, how much better can you really get as an introduction than that, walking through a building?
That's strong.
Then we
That's
have
a strong visual.
Yeah, and then it goes on, it goes on, it goes on. We have personality. So, although still emotionally repressed and stoic, like many male heroes in 1980s media, Kenshiro is notable in manga and anime of the time for being a sensitive and kind-hearted man who broke the very well-established men don't cry cultural stereotypes. That's one of the reasons Kenshiro is such an interesting character. He's not just stoic martial arts badass man. He's very sensitive. He is like, he is a man's man, but also a sensitive man, which makes him the best kind of man.
Exactly, yeah.
He's kind-hearted, he looks after people, he protects the innocent and genuinely feels empathy for those who can't defend themselves. And some of his most badass moments are him defending people from the aforementioned stereotypical wasteland bandits.
相手はジーダだ。奴らは女子供だろうと容赦なく皆殺しさ。
And really, really giving them what for with his variety of techniques.
一人の男の願いのこもった鶏だ。
So is it just like bandits and stuff that he deals with, or is there ever like a main overarching villain?
There is, yeah. There's like Rao, and there's like bandit warlords and stuff, and there's just
Right.
There's big, like, you know, bandits who are taking charge of areas where he goes in and stops them. For the most part, the fun stuff of like Fist of the North Star is just Kenshiro turns up, saves the day, and leaves.
Fair enough, yeah.
And he always saves the day by just unveiling a new bullshit technique that is seemingly specifically tailored for that one scenario. Like in one episode, he's fighting a guy who breathes fire. And he's like, my fire breathing technique is unbeatable. And he's like, aha, but I know a secret technique that stops people breathing by punching them at this one specific point in the throat. Now your technique is useless.
経絡飛行の一つ前兆をついた。お前の喉は詰まり、炎が体内を駆け巡る。
And just like that, and that's a very classic trope, isn't it? Of the oh, there's a secret technique you didn't know that I had that specifically works in this moment.
The classic. Like, how many times did Frieza unveil that he had another transformation?
Exactly, yes. Kenshiro is extremely selfless, often putting himself in harm's way for innocent and the weak. Kenshiro despises injustice and cruelty wherever he sees it, and is often motivated to go out of his way in his quest for days at a time and for many miles off his path in order to deal with a threat to a local population of innocents. And it's like just Kenshiro rolling into town. He's just like, okay, problem solved. And he says, although he hates cruelty, he is ready to use violence without hesitation, and he's shown to be openly wrathful on the rare occasions where he does get angry. Because that's the thing, that's what makes him really scary. He does all of this, and he's completely calm. Like when he tells the person, you're dead, he's not saying it in a way of like, you know, to mock them. It's like, no, just you're dead. You don't know it yet.
Factually,
you are
already dead.
Yeah. Before we move on to the powers and abilities, or as it says here, the top 50 Kenshiro secrets, which is just so anime, I love it. I will make one like detour, much in the way that Kenshiro does, to say that there is a Fist of the North Star game made by the people who make Yakuza games.
Oh.
And it uses the Yakuza engine. And I believe the voice actor they got for Kenshiro is the voice actor for Kiryu.
Right, of course. Yeah.
And the really fun thing is that they took one of the moves that Kenshiro does and gave it to Kiryu in a later game. And the reason I wanted to mention it more than anything is because there is an amazing mod where someone put those moves into a Yakuza game. And one of the moves is, like, just Kenshiro catching a bullet and throwing it back. But legit, I saw a clip of, like, that mod and just thought that was a move that Kiryu could do I'd not unlocked. That's how powerful Kiryu is. I just didn't know.
If you were playing, like, Yakuza 0, where he swaps between all the styles, and, like, one of them was just Big Dipper style and he started catching bullets, I wouldn't really question that that's something Kiryu couldn't do.
It doesn't seem that far out of the possibility for something Kiryu could do, given that he can move faster than bullets.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we're not talking about Kiryu. We did that, you know, a couple of months ago now, so you can go check out that Wiki Weekends video if you are so inclined. But the top 50 secrets about Kenshiro, and these are translated from the 1986 magazine, Hokuto no Kenshin Special, all about the man.
Okay.
And
so is this, like, secrets as in, like, secret techniques, or is this, like, just general secrets about the character?
Well, it's just trivia about Kenshiro. So stuff like, you know, his head volume, 23 inches. You don't need to know that. But Lucas, his hearing ability. Do you know he can hear a whisper from 2 kilometers away?
Fucking hell.
He is 6'1". His eyesight, he can see the aura of a living creature in pitch black darkness. So even in pitch black darkness, he can still see you because he can see your aura. His leg thickness is 24 inches. Which is as thick as some people's waist.
That's like the size of some people's waist.
Yeah.
What?
His body characteristics, his index and middle fingers are forged by doing 2-finger handstands in order to better pierce vital points. And that's his fighting style. It's like the just pressure point fighting.
Finger gun technique.
Yeah. Bam! His sense of taste is sensitive enough to detect poisonous food. His voice can mimic many sounds, including the cries of animals. And then his grip, arm strength, walking ability, and strength of his back are unmeasurable. Keep in mind he walked through a building once. His muscle strength, he can repel the bullet of a small caliber gun when strained. So he can flex and block bullets.
Just via muscle.
Yep. Fist strength, he can throw 50 punches in 3 seconds while performing the 100 crack fist. And I think it's way more than that.
Yeah.
So they say it's 50 punches in 3 seconds. I'll put the clip in. It's way more than 50 punches. We move on to number 33. Fasting resistance. His body can remain strong for 3 months without eating. So he'd, be perfect for Ramadan, which just ended today. The day of recording, at least, anyway. Memory capacity, can memorize up to 50,000 words after reading them only once.
I mean, I hope in order, because I've probably memorized 50,000 words.
Well, I think it means he can just memorize just a 50,000 word page after just seeing it once.
Yeah.
His favourite weapons are nunchaku, a 6-section staff, and throwing knives. So basically ninja and samurai weapons. His special skills, he has an internal biological clock with a margin of error no less than 3 seconds per month.
Fucking hell.
Habits, cracks his fingers before a fight. The classic trope, cracking your fingers before a fight. Hobby, developing new secret techniques. I like the idea of new secret techniques.
You've always got to just make sure you've got something up your sleeve, Karl.
Yeah, favourite food, there's not much room for likes and dislikes at the end of the century or the post-apocalyptic world. Favourite clothes, strong leather jeans that allow him to move more easily. The classics. That makes me think he wears Chuck Norris action jeans. You ever heard of those?
I've never heard the phrase leather pants that help you move more easily.
Lucas, we don't know what crazy bullshit they've got in Kenshiro's universe, but that is a recurring joke that he always wears the same outfit, but every fight he just screams and his shirt explodes.
Oh.
Then he always has an extra in the next episode. But yeah, I think he might wear Chuck Norris action jeans. You know about those?
No.
So in the 80s, when Chuck Norris fever was at its pitch, I guess before the internet memes, most of which could apply to Kenshiro because he kind of does all that bullshit like they say about Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris can roundhouse kick himself in the back of the head. Kenshiro probably has a secret technique that'll allow him to do that. But yeah, in the 80s, Chuck Norris invented Chuck Norris action jeans, which are jeans that have a special section in the crotch to allow you to stretch your legs and do high kicks while wearing jeans.
I mean, all that reminds me of, and remind me after, this to find the clip for you.
Okay.
But there's a scene in It's Always Sunny where Dennis is showing off the fact that he cut his jeans in a way that he can stretch out super far. And that's all that it reminded me of.
I'm maxing out about here.
That's not bad. But check this out.
Go. Whoa! Any more?
That's it, but that's pretty wide, right?
Maybe Dennis would benefit from a pair of Chuck Norris action jeans. And we have a few bits of trivia here that aren't part of the 50 secrets about Kenshiro, and it's one that I mentioned earlier. According to the original creator of the Fist of the North Star manga, Kenshiro is based on the martial artist Bruce Lee, and there are numerous tributes to Bruce Lee, ranging from his jumping stance to his fighting style and high-pitched battle cries, as well as similar scenes as the one in which the icon himself appeared in numerous films, such as the fight against Mad Sarge and his man. His appearance just looks a little bit like Bruce Lee, the short, shaggy hair and the muscular physique.
Sure, yeah.
And just I mentioned it earlier, the Bruce Lee battle cries. I guess I kind of have to mention just the other characters that are based on Bruce Lee, because there's so many of them. And do you have a favourite character that is just Bruce Lee in all but name?
I think just in terms of how hard they lean into all of the screams, probably Law from Tekken.
Yeah, so martial law in Tekken's a good one. And it's never been more blatant than it is in Tekken 8, where he literally wears an outfit that Bruce Lee did on his day off, I think.
Well, even in like Tekken 3, he has the iconic like yellow jumpsuit, doesn't he, as an alternate costume?
And I think the most blatant one, like martial law is like pretty on the nose, like with the outfit, but the most blatant one is Jan Lee from Dead or Alive. Because not only has he got Jan Lee, he has the same yellow outfit, the same fighting style. His backstory is, I shit you not, he got beaten up as a little kid, watched a Bruce Lee movie, and just taught himself to fight by watching Bruce Lee. Right?
Yeah.
That's so dumb, right? And the final fact is what I mentioned earlier, but here's just the full details for anyone who's curious. Kenshiro's character model can be swapped with Kazuma Kiryu from the Yakuza series in the Fist of the North Star game. This is a reference to him having the same Japanese voice actor as Kiryu. And I don't know why you'd ever turn off the Japanese voice actor for Kiryu, because do you know there was like one game in the Yakuza series that had English voices, and it's real bad.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they got some big names, like Mark Hamill is Majima.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they got actual real people in to voice them, but it just looks so weird to see Mark Hamill's voice come out of a Japanese guy.
Everyone's jealous of you. I know I'd like to nail a bitch like that. What do you want me to do with this brick?
But I imagine he would do a fun job of Majima.
But he's never going to get the Kiryu-chan! Like, no one can do that. So there's just some things that just sound better in their native language. Like I mentioned earlier, like the muda 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 muda. That sounds way better in Japanese than the English version, which you can see by just playing through Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, where Armstrong just does, you know, the equivalent of like, die, 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 which is awesome, but he just doesn't have that rolling cadence that makes it sound so badass in anime. And Lucas, before we go, is there anything else you'd like to talk about in regards to anime? Because I know it is a topic that you will often jump at the chance to discuss.
Yeah, it's more one that like annoyed me. Speaking of, the voice, like dub versus sub kind of argument and all that jazz. It was the fact that when I was watching the live action One Piece, just the fact that immediately, like when Zoro and Luffy meet, Zoro watches Luffy fight and talks to him for a little bit.
Yeah.
And one of the first things he says to him is like, "Oh man, you call out your attack names, that's so dumb." And it's like, in the actual anime, from second one, Zoro is calling out every single, like, attack move that he does.
Yeah.
Gum whip. Yeah! All great fighters call out their finishing moves. No, they don't.
And then it's like, oh no, but he has to be the cool, stoic swordsman. It's like, he's not, he's just as goofy as he is cool.
And I would like to point out as well, that's not lame. That's actually one of the coolest things you can do, especially if the thing has a super cool, rad name. And in that vein, Lucas, any favourite names for moves in anime? Because, we'll go back to Dragon Ball. I'm a big fan of just, like, the names of some of the moves in that. And the dumber they are, the more I like them. Like, I love all of Raditz as like Double Sunday. Such a stupid name for a move.
Yeah.
But that's like Dragon Ball has all of them. It has the ones that are lame, but go all the way around to being cool again, like Double Sunday. Then the ones that are just super rad, like Hellzone Grenade.
Oh yeah, Hellzone Grenade's a great one.
Do you have any like favourite like move names?
Well, so one that I always got confused by was a Zoro technique.
Okay.
Where one of his like basic moves is called the Onigiri. And I was like, isn't onigiri like the rice, the rice snacks?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, why does he have a move called like, there's just a rice snack, and it turns out onigiri means ogre cutter.
Oh,
and I was like, oh, okay, so it's like that double meaning kind of thing.
It's
and
food
I was like,
he's the chef, right?
No, he's the one with the three swords, and Sanji has some great ones where he just like will just do like a flambe on you and shit like this.
Okay, well, I thought, like, you know, there's some fun ones that I've mentioned, like the Dragon Ball ones. Let us know your favourites in the comments, folks. But I thought to end on, Lucas, I've just got a list of the various techniques that Kenshiro does throughout the manga and anime. And we just, like, you know, hear a smattering of things. We've not had any band names in a Wiki Weekends in a while, so let's get some band names. I'm not going to say the Japanese name because I'm going to pronounce it wrong and it'll annoy everybody.
It'll just be people in the comments being super angry with us.
So I'll just say the literal English translation of what the move is. So the first one listed here of the Hokuto Shinken style is Fist Stealing Discarding Resolution, a technique Kenshiro used to penetrate through a character's defense, which weakened their arms. He also has the Cutting Bone and Tendon technique, which is used to cause an opponent's muscles to self-destruct. Five-finger violent bullets, explodes fingers, used on Madara and Club. So he's got a move that causes your fingers to explode. Face-breaking fist, caves in the face. See, the thing is, that's like you're approaching like One Punch Man levels of shit there, aren't you? We didn't even mention One Punch Man. One Punch Man also does the trope, doesn't it? Of the punching things multiple times. And then it deconstructs that trope by having everything die in one punch. Well, you have like the thing that Lord Boros does, doesn't you? Of like the roaring Giga Death supernova collapsing star cannon. Serious punch.
I just want to mention that, like, you know, I looked up a couple of Sanji techniques to be like, oh, well, for example, like, he has like a Jushu or a flambar shot, and they are like food related, but I just wanted to mention some Zoro ones because they're really cool.
And the names of them might be able to, like, you know, contend with the super rad badass names of the ones Kenshiro has. So Lucas, let's have a duel of sorts. So you open with a technique from Zoro, I will counter with a technique from Kenshiro, and we'll see who wins.
Okay.
So how are you going to open this duel?
I mean, I'm just going to start with like one of the simpler ones.
Okay.
Just Great Dragon Shock.
Okay, that's pretty good, but I want to counter with one of Kenshiro's simpler techniques. Flying Bird Empty Beheading Wave.
I mean, fair enough.
A flying kick that takes the head off.
Let me find out a more impactful one for you then. We've got Asura 1 Miss Silver.
I have here Every Way Beheading.
Every Way Beheading.
We just karate chops
does that behead a lot of people?
Yeah, it's all the heads fall off at once.
Oh. We've got the Ultra Gary Ultra Tiger Hunt.
Okay, that's pretty good. Twisting Face Breaking Fist. A knee kick to the face that causes the face to explode.
Of course it does. We have the 3-sword style secret skill Crossroads of Sixth Paths.
Okay, that's pretty good. I have here Life Snatching Collapse Fist.
Oh, Jesus. We've got another one here. Death Lion's Song.
I'll counter that with Raging Flame Reverse Flow Punch.
Ooh, okay. It's strong. I've got 2 more good ones here.
Okay.
One, just nice and simple. Great Dragon Twister.
That is, I like when they name a dragon. So when it went in on that, I think just any move that mentions a dragon is always going to be super rad. 7 Death Cavalry Kill.
Jesus Christ. And I'm going to have to just give me one sec to figure out how to pronounce this word.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure how to say this word, Karl.
Okay.
Maybe if I send the technique to you, you could have a better stab at saying
I'm not going to pronounce Lucas. If you can't pronounce it, I win by default.
I'm going to send it to you. You see if you can have a go at this word.
Okay. 3-sword style secret skill Billionfold World Trichiloscum. Trichilocosm? Trichilocosm? Trichiliocosm? That is a word I'm not too familiar with. Thing is, just pronouncing it's like got me on my ass.
Oh dear.
I'll end with that, just a classic, sweeping leg kick from Kenshiro called the Thunder Violent God Leg.
Oh god, yes.
Just, it's only a 7-star obliteration technique. Like, it's so badass, and we could talk about anime and badass shit all day. And if you'd like to see us talk about more badass stuff, subscribe to the channel or go to the Discord link below to continue the conversation there. Thanks to everybody for watching. Thank you to my co-host Lucas Holland.
Hello there.
And as always, go out there and have the day that you deserve. Cheers.
「早くなる